came home, had a really difficult, it was Thursday night actually, very difficult week at work this week, very tired, stressed out. But here's something that dawned on me in the midst of that. You know what, I thought, I haven't picked up my Bible in a couple days. I've just been so busy getting up at 5 in the morning, going into work, working long hours. And when I neglect my relationship with God, the whole world looks dark to me. See, I have to have that relationship with God. I've got to be in God's Word every day. Otherwise, things start to go downhill. Because listen, you can't serve God, and you can't stay energized long enough without His Word. That is the food of our spiritual life. So these people, they study almost 2/3 of them study God's Word every day, and a majority, 54%, has a set time, a quiet time with God every day. Less than 1/3 of non-revolutionary born-again adults, only 31% follow that pattern. So listen, people that serve God are in His Word regularly. They're building a relationship with Him. They relate to God. Now, people who stay in God's Word serve in God's vineyard. That's the bottom line. Now, here's the third thing I want you to write down. Not only do we need to recognize and relate, we also need to reproduce. We need to be teaching other people how to serve God. We need to be a role model for others. Now, maybe you're here and you have children. That's the most direct people in your life that you can become a role model for. But if you're not a parent, there's a lot of other people that you can be role models for. Jesus said, teach them to your children. Repeat them when you are at home and when you are away, when you are resting, when you are working. And then He gives some practical ways to do that. We need to be role models. Nothing will teach you more than teaching others. And to teach something, you have to really know it. So here's what you do. You teach your children. You become an example of them of sacrifice. You serve them. You serve your spouse. You serve in the community. And then when they get old enough, you take them with you. And you show them how it is to serve. One of the things I love about C3 is that every Sunday morning, we have an opportunity to model for everybody who's here whether we're going to serve or not. Right? Because there's no lack of things to do here. And I've watched it, and we did this thing called Cornerstone Cash. And that really turned out to be a great thing. Because it got our children excited, maybe a little bit in the wrong way. It got them excited about serving. And I know for my kids, that's carried over. Even now, Cornerstone Cash we killed it, it's dead now. We're doing something else. We're not giving money away anymore, we're gambling now. We're giving lottery tickets or something. They've got some other thing here. Come to church, we have all kinds of fun, right? If cash away, we game whatever. It's just a little incentive. But here's what's happened. My kids, their antenna of service was raised. And they watched us as we served with them. We have an opportunity to model. I want you to understand something else here before I move on. That word teach is a very specific word in the Hebrew. It's not used very often in the Old Testament. Many, many, many years ago, I was reading this passage. I have an old Bible that I have tons of notes in. It's falling apart. I want to get it rebound someday. Things just falling apart. But I want to keep it. It has a lot of notes, a lot of personal handwritten notes. And in this passage, and I can almost picture it in my mind, it's on the right side of the page, it's highlighted in green. If you ever pick that Bible up of mine, you can find it, Deuteronomy 6. And right next to that, I looked this word up, this word teach. And you know what that word means? It means to etch into somebody's heart a truth. Now, how do you etch something into something else? You do it over and over and over again. Until it's so ingrained that it's actually become a part of that object. Listen, if you want your children and other people around you to be servants, you have to model it for them, and not just one time. You have to do it over and over and over again, repeatedly, until it wears a groove in their soul. And that's what this verse is talking about. An image that I got in my mind is this. If you took a diamond and you wrote something on a piece of glass with the point of the diamond, I think that's the image that God wants us to have. You don't get that out of the glass, do you? It's probably there forever. And the more times you go over that, the deeper it becomes. And so when he says to teach here, he uses this very specific Hebrew word. Now, the last thing is this, and I've already alluded to this, we need to repeat. We need to go over God's word repeatedly. We need reminders. That's what these things, they were supposed to wear scriptures on their arms and tie them on their foreheads. They're called frontlets. And there's a name for the thing, I think they're called phylacteries, little things on their arms. If you see a Jewish person, they'll have something wrapped around their arm, a leather thong. That's where they get this from. And here's the thing. We need to memorize God's word. We need to meditate on God's word. We need to go over it again and again and again. Look at what Deuteronomy 6 says here. It says, when are you supposed to repeat these things? You're supposed to repeat them when you are at home, when you are away, when you are resting, and when you are working. That pretty much covers most of our life, right? Tie them on your arms and wear them on your foreheads as a reminder. Write them on the doorposts of your houses and on your gates. What is God telling us here? He's saying these principles, these truths need to permeate every single area of our lives. And when that happens, we will be a people that love God. So if we build this love relationship with God, we will then become servants to other people. That is the foundation. Because once you love God, you can't help but serve people. It's just a byproduct. You'll become a servant. If you don't serve anybody, you have a love relationship problem with God. That's the real root of the problem. You just don't love God enough. Now, I pulled this very interesting, this is from a commentary, and I want to read this to you, and I want you to just bear with me here. It's a little lengthy, but it's just so profound, The old, people that lived in the 1800s, 1900s, they just had a different perception of life than we do often. There was a lot less to do. There was no internet, there was no TV, no radio, and I think they reflected a lot more on the things of God. I have fully come to grips that I am a distracted person. I have a very short attention span to begin with. I almost failed 4th grade. I'm not kidding you, because I could not sit still in a classroom. I'm not exactly sure how I got through 4th grade, or high school for that matter. But anyway, listen to what he says here. What is implied in loving God with all the heart, soul, mind, strength, etc.? And when may a man be said to do this? He loves God with all his heart, who loves nothing in comparison of him, and nothing but in reference to him, who is ready to give up, do, or suffer anything in order to please and glorify him, who has in his heart neither love nor hatred, hope nor fear, inclination nor aversion, desire nor delight, but as they relate to God, and are regulated by him. He loves God with all his soul, or rather with all his life, who is ready to give up life for his sake, to endure all sorts of torments, and to be deprived of all kinds of comforts rather than dishonor God, who employs life with all its comforts and conveniences to glorify God in, by, and through all. To whom life and death are nothing, but as they come from and lead to God. From this divine principle sprang the blood of the martyrs, which became the seed of the church. They overcame through the blood of the Lamb and loved not their lives unto death. He loves God with all his strength, who exerts all the powers of his body and soul in the service of God, who for the glory of his Maker spares neither labor nor cost, who sacrifices his time, body, health, ease, for the honor of God, his divine Master, who employs in his service all his goods, his talents, his power, credit, authority, and influence. He loves God with all his mind, or his intellect, who applies himself only to know God and his holy will, who receives with submission, gratitude, and pleasure the sacred truths which God has revealed to man, who studies no art nor science, but as far